watching Raw with Marty Gallagher on ICTV. Your hosts today are Marty Gallagher, coach, writer, and athlete, and yours truly, J.P. Bryce with Iron Company. In addition to being a national champion in two strength sports and an IPF world champion powerlifter, Marty is also a national and world champion team coach. Today we're going to talk a little bit about seasonally appropriate eating and training. And it might be something that people on the East Coast and northern portion of the country are a little bit more familiar with, the colder climates. So let's have Marty describe seasonally appropriate eating and training and what that is.
Okay. Well, back in the old days, we all ate organic. Okay. Back in the 60s when I was first coming up, supermarkets, believe it or not, were just becoming a standard issue in suburbia. Up until that time, the quality of the food was superior to what you get now because it was largely seasonally appropriate, locally sourced. You didn't have fruits shipped in from Florida and from California, and the onslaught of refined foods hadn't happened yet. I think that's critically important. My generation was the generation of the 60s. The chips, the artificial foods, all that really took root in the 70s. So again, when I came up, the food quality was better. The training was simplistic. And I think I mentioned this to you before, JP. Even though our information was limited, it tended to be really good. In the interceding 60 years since I first learned these core progressive resistance techniques, almost all of them still are relevant today. But I think that what's happened is that this idea of organic eating and primal training naturally go together. Additionally, when you take into account the fact that when you look at a periodized cycle, generally the most common length is 12 weeks. Well, 12 weeks is a 3-month period. So if you sync up your seasonally appropriate training with your locally sourced seasonally appropriate eating, you have this really holistic oneness that is it creates a physical synergy that has to be experienced to be believed. You with me? You tracking?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And you've got you've told me before you're up there in the mountain, but you've got
indeed
some real nice local butchers that you go to. You've got, I think, farmers markets.
Everybody does, buddy. Everybody's got a farmer's market.
Do that.
Everybody's got a farmer's market. You just have to get out of the supermarket habit. You know, go to the farmer's market. Well, I guess even before that, learn how to cook. It's not a hard thing. It's not a hard thing to know how to roast a chicken, how to grill a steak, you know, what to do with your proteins, how to make vegetables that actually taste good. These are apparently lost arts in this day and age. You know, men in particular need to be self-empowered by learning how to cook for themselves. They can't be dependent upon others for their sources of food. I suspect that you might fall in that latter category yourself.
Yeah. Do you have any sources online or any books that you use personally for eating like this, for, you know, making the different stews?
Oh, it's easy. It's just everybody has access to the Food Network. You can get the best food technique prep, the best prep techniques in the world just from watching the Food Network. They have elite chefs show you how to make everything from a simple fillet of sautéed fish. I mean, how to saute some salmon. These are very basic things. you can put together. I typically put together dinner in less than 15 minutes, and let me tell you, I don't get any complaints. Again, the whole key with really good cooking is having the finest quality local ingredients, and don't mess them up. Okay, prepare them simply, prepare them expeditiously, and don't try to overpower them or put your own imprint on them. Let the flavors of the natural produces and proteins shine through.
Right, make it taste good, and it's almost like you're not eating good. It's not like you're being, held to diet food, so to speak, because it just tastes good and you look forward to eating it.
It's not diet food.
Yeah.
Okay? If you look forward to eating your produce and proteins, then dieting ceases to be dieting.
Right.
And that's what we're looking for. That's when dieting becomes a lifestyle that you can live with. We also are not fat phobic. Thankfully, that seems to be falling out of favor. It used to be that saturated fat was demonized at every turn. Every societal ill was blamed on saturated fat, when in fact, as we knew all along, it's refined carbs. Okay, it's not saturated fat. Saturated fat does not clog arteries, does not kill you with heart attacks, but refined carbs sure will. Okay, that they are responsible for the obesity epidemic in this country, and it's taken the Food and Drug Administration, all the health czars. It's taken them so long to come to the realization that they were completely wrong about saturated fat. Okay, to this day, I think only recently they changed the USDA food pyramid. They were allowing people up to 9 to 12 servings a day of pasta or bread. Can you imagine?
Yeah. And all this has kind of turned around within the last, I don't know, what would you say, like 5 years?
I would say, yeah, or maybe even less than that. Strength athletes have always known that saturated fat is incredibly good for recovery. Because it's so nutrient dense, it makes an ideal food fuel for hard training athletes. It's, if you don't train hard, you don't want to overeat. But if you really train hard as you're supposed to, the 9 calories per gram in fat is more than double the 4 or 4.5 grams per calorie for carbs or protein. So it's not raising your insulin, so you're not going to pack on weight like you would with the carbs. No, exactly. In fact, fat is actually an insulin damper, and if you do eat starch carbs in combination with fat, the fat will actually dampen the insulin response related to the starch carbs. So,
right.
So that's it. That's why it's always good if you do eat starch carbs. Try to eat them in combination with fat or protein.
Right. Why don't you talk a little bit more about the difference between colder month training, winter eating, right, compared to warm weather eating in the as spring comes and we go into summer.
Well, in a perfect world, and again, if you're living in seasonally variable climate like we do here, the rich foods taste the best in the wintertime. The stews, the soups, the roasts, all the heavy foods taste the best in the winter. Why not sync that up with a size and strength program? It makes perfect sense. Why be at cross purposes? Why would you diet in the cold months of the winter when your body needs the extra calories as opposed to the depth of the summer? Conversely, the ideal time to get maximally lean is in July and August when it's maximally hot. You're kicking more cardio, you're eating lighter, you're eating leaner. Your progressive resistance training is going to be more volume, less intensity. Whereas in the wintertime, you want to bias it the other way. You want to have maximum intensity, minimum volume, along with the rich, dense foods. So again, keeping in mind that the ideal periodization cycle is 12 weeks, 3 months, 1 season, why not sync your periodization cycles up so that in the winter months you're maximizing power and strength, then coming into the spring, you're in a transitory period, and again, you're staying appropriate to whatever foods are available. In the depth of the winter, we do a lot of root vegetables, carrots, onions, tuberous stuff in combinations with our heavy roasts and our heavier foods. In the summertime, maximally lean. I mean, you want your lightest proteins. You want your fish. You want your lighter meats and your fowl and your beef. You want more activity. It makes perfect sense to move more in the summer and to sync that up with a higher volume, lower intensity program and kick the cardio hard. Then when you come into the fall, okay, now we're into another transitory period leading back into the winter. Again, you get in sync with whatever's seasonally appropriate, both in terms of food and in terms of training. And again, it's a very holistic approach toward this, the whole Rubik's Cube of physical transformation, which is really what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to transform ourselves physically. That's why we're doing.
Right.
That's why we're doing all this. We don't train hard and eat with discipline to stay the same.
Right. I mean, this is sort of a lost. You said something the other day. Lost. You called it a lost strength art.
Yeah.
I mean, this seems like naturally what you guys did more of, like back in the day, and you say that's on the decline because I don't hear a whole lot of guys doing that. Of course, I'm out in California where it's pretty. We don't have big, huge temperature swings, and it doesn't snow or anything.
Yeah, you're in a permanent lean out phase, aren't you?
Yeah, shorts all year long, flip flops.
Well, it ain't like that back here in Pennsylvania, I can tell you that. Yeah, it used to be. You look back to the days of like Marvin Eder and Reg Park and Bill Pearl and the early 60s guys, and it was even more that way back then because they literally, there was barely any interstate highway system back in the 50s. So all the foods were from your local area, right? We used to have milk delivered to our house by a dairy, right? That's a thing of the past. Thompson's Dairy used to deliver eggs, cream, milk. I think they came twice a week, right? Now the dairy conglomerates have wiped all that out, and we got a better quality product back then. You still will get a better quality product if you take the time. Go to the local butcher shop. You have a butcher shop around there. Wherever you live, there will be a butcher shop somewhere. There will be a farmer's market. Go to those places and talk to the purveyors. They'll help you out. If you have questions about how best to prepare a certain protein or produce, ask. It's not that hard. There's not a chicken, beef, pork, which we eat pork. These are easily prepared foods if you know what you're doing. It doesn't take time. It doesn't take, it's not an elaborate preparation. It's not like your mother making Sunday dinner and spending 3 hours putting it together. From the time I walk into the door, I can have a farm fresh vegetable. Right now, asparagus is in. So we're eating asparagus all the time, and we're eating asparagus that was picked within the last 2 to 3 days. There's a vibrancy to the taste and the potency of the fresh vegetables that really, if you're limited to supermarket produce, you're not going to experience it. That's pale and diluted compared to produce that we're getting. ditto with the proteins. If you go to the butcher shop, they're going to have local animals that were likely raised outside, likely had good lives, and it makes for a better quality of meat. The meat that you're getting from the supermarket is essentially concentration camp animals. They're raised in captivity. The chickens, I have heard from many sources, their feet never touch the ground. They never see sunlight. And of course they're stuffed with the steroids, and they're stuffed with the different antibiotics to prevent a sickness ripping through the herd and killing all the animals. Well, that's good for the farmer, but it's not really good for the final finished product. Our animals live outside in sunlight, and the farmer knew their name before they were,
Yeah, free range, grass fed.
Yeah. Well, grass fed, usually grain finished. We're not doing the $25 a pound, organic meats that you're getting from the the gourmet urban supermarkets. The hipster places, we're getting the local stuff at reasonable prices. It's so comparable to what you're paying at the supermarket. You'd be amazed if you would just go and check it out. So, anyway, I would just urge, particularly the guys out there, learn how to cook. It ain't a big deal. It's rote over and over. You're doing the same procedures. There's no reason that you don't have 10 different ways to prepare chicken, which you guys are going to eat a lot of chicken. You're going to be eating a lot of chicken and a lot of ground beef because that's what's reasonable. And for most young guys, they can't afford $15 a pound for white fish and for expensive shellfish. So we have to learn how to make do with these reasonably priced proteins, right?
It should be kept purposefully primitive, just like our listing, right?
Correct. Yeah, in fact, my old buddy, Dr. Jim Wright, who's not with us anymore, but Jim came to stay with me for a couple weeks one time, and he said I should write a book called One Man, One Pan, because 90% of the cooking that I do on one burner with one pan. And it's amazing the amount of variety that you can elicit from just one burner, one good pan, some good quality olive oil. An oven helps too, okay? And again, also, I would leave you guys with this thought in terms of food, because we do want to spend a couple minutes on the training. This really hit home with me the other day. Somebody said, if it's not lean protein, if it's not fat, or if it's not fiber carbs, it's undigested sugar. I love that. That's great. And obviously, if you want to control insulin, which is the real enemy, you need to bias your eating toward the proteins, the fat, the fiber carbs, right?
Well, you wrote a great article on that, and I'm trying to remember the name. I'm looking it up right now. It's on our website. And you discuss all that. Mm-hmm. Was it The Minefield of Nutrition?
That's a good one. I like that. It's a good title. I might steal that.
Well, it might be Purposefully Primitive Dieting, where you talk about that, and you really simplify it, just like you said. It's fats and
protein,
fibers.
And fiber. Other than that, it's sugar, dude. Yeah. It just hadn't been broken down in the body yet. If you haven't,
what was the book though that you were reading that made you write that article? You talked about reading a book, and it made you want to write that article down.
Doesn't ring a bell off. It doesn't really matter. I mean, they got the gist of it. We passed. That was the whole rationale of the book. What I just explained. If it ain't fiber, if it ain't protein, if it ain't fat, it's sugar. Great. That's really all you. And that's also, JP, why if I wrote for Weider for many, many years, and I interviewed all the top bodybuilders in the world on how they ate. And again, almost all of them the backbone of their diet was lean protein and fiber. Now, some guys like Dorian told me that saturated fat made him sick. So he was a carb-centric guy. He would use carbs. He had his protein, he had his fiber, but he would bias toward carbs and keep the fats at a minimum. And then at the other extreme, you have strength athletes who go, well, we want the protein, we want the fiber, but we want to bias toward the saturated fat. Well, they've got to keep the carbs and the starch carbs down to a minimum. It's sort of one or the other in terms of fat or starch carbs.
Right. By the way, I think that book was called Primal Mind, Primal Body.
There you go. Very good. That's good. Let's spend the last couple minutes we have on the training, because I think that's important too. Obviously, in the depth of the winter, when we're eating the thick, rich foods, minimalistic power training, ideal, right? We're big believers in outdoor cardio. We do a lot of outdoor cardio, but that's going to be kept to a minimum if there's ice and snow on the ground or if it's raining. We will do some machine cardio, but we're not going to get too carried away with that. The power training is basically centered around your squats, your bench presses, your deadlifts, your overhead presses. Some quick lifts are good if you can do a respectable power clean. By all means, power cleans. We love power cleans. Arm work always, biceps, triceps. But arm work is like dessert. You eat your meat and potatoes first, which are your big lifts. And if you have room left over, eat your dessert. Never eat your dessert before your entree, and never eat dessert and skip the main meal, right? Which is what most of the kids do nowadays. They want to train all the little muscles. They want to train the biceps, the triceps, the calves, the abs, the beach muscles, and ignore the big muscles. We're the total opposite. Now, when you get to the height of the summer, that's when it's like, okay, we're going to open up the exercise menu, right? We're going to broaden it. We're going to do more. We're going to do quicker. We're going to do less weight. We're going to do more sets. We're going to do more reps. We're going to sync that up to more bias toward cardio. Love cardio, okay? But the cardio's got to be intense. You got to sweat. If you're not sweating when you're doing cardio, you're really not doing it. Sweat is the indicator of the adaptive response in cardio. That's what we're looking for. So again, what would go perfectly with the high volume, moderate intensity, progressive resistance program and a high intensity cardio regimen, some lean and light eating, right? More salads, lighter proteins, get away from the thick, heavy cuts, get into lighter cuts of protein. We do a certain amount of supplements too. We like nutritional supplementation, particularly the protein powders and the bars. Past that, not too much, but we do like the supplemental protein.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do, baby.
Especially from Perillo, right?
We love John. John's stuff is the best.
It is.
It's the purest, and it's interesting with we're talking about John Perillo Performance Products, who puts absolutely the best natural supplements in the market out there, because it's all what it's supposed to be. It's not crammed with filler, made in China, with enhanced nutrients that can't be real.
And it's by no means the cheapest that you're going to find,
Nope.
But I can tell you what, when you try it, it is the cleanest, most natural tasting. It's delicious, and you can, when you taste it, you can tell why it's more expensive than the other stuff. It's just got a totally natural, really good taste to it. You taste the quality, so it's good stuff. I love his protein powder and the bars, like you said. Yeah,
we mix John's protein with raw milk, which makes sort of a anabolic atomic bomb. That's powerhouse. We're big fans of Weston A. Price and his whole approach. And a big part of the Weston A. Price approach is raw milk, which we're able to get here without any hassle. Apparently, the dairy conglomerates are really declared war on the raw milk producers, but we're able to get it here. And I'll do a couple of raw milk shakes per day. And with John's protein, I get about 60. I'm probably getting about 60 grams per shake, with including the milk.
And you're taking in protein about what, every 3 hours? Or?
No. I'm more of a warrior diet guy. You know, I don't eat breakfast. I don't have my first meal of the day till probably 2:30. Now, I don't count a shake. If I weight train in the morning, I'll have a shake. I don't count that as a meal.
Right.
But that's the only. I won't take in any solid food till about 2:30 in the afternoon. However, I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm usually in bed by 8. Or well, I'm in bed by 8, but I'm asleep by 9:30. So I'm shook loose in time like Billy Pilgrim. I'm a different type dude.
Right. Well, you and I kind of have the same schedule.
Yes, you do.
All right. Well, that's all great information. I think we've been talking about this for quite a bit. We've got some good information out there. Did you want to add anything before we close it out?
No, I think that's it. I think we've made our case pretty well. Just get out there and find your local farmer's market, find the butcher shop, get up on your basic food prep skills. It's not a hard thing. In terms of training, you can check in with us. We have all kinds of training posted on the site. So any type of training that they're looking for, if they research my stuff, they can find what they're looking for in terms of the training.
Yeah, everybody out there, should go visit our site. I mean, we've got Marty's articles. We got a ton of them on there now, and they address resistance training, diet, brain train, cardio. I mean, this is all a lot of the same information that built world champions. So this is the real stuff. It's not motivated by any outside agendas or ulterior motives. So this is all the real stuff. So go to our website, www.ironcompany.com, and check out Raw with Marty Gallagher. We've got one new post a week, so we've always got new information going up there. You can also find his books, Purposeful Primitive and Strong Medicine, on our site or Amazon. And also, if you go to our athletes page, you'll find Marty Gallagher and Kurt Kowalski. These guys are both available for online personal training.
Limited amount. We're only interested in serious people.
Yeah, serious only. So if whether it's resistance training, or if you want to talk about some of the stuff we were talking about today and dive in further into that and dial in your nutrition. If
I might, it's not just resistance training. When we work with people, we're looking for radical physical transformation, and we bring in everything. We bring in the cardio, we bring in the eating, we bring in the brain train, we bring in the progressive resistance training. We never miss if the strategies are implemented in the ways that they are designed. They never miss. It's biology. We've got too much experience. We've got over 50 years using this strategy, and it works every single time.
Well, and they can also read about some of these strategies that were used by Kowalski and Cohn, and we've got a great article coming out about Lamar Gant.
Yep.
That's coming up. What an incredible guy he was. So this is all tried and true stuff for absolutely verifiable results. And that's, unless it's verifiable, what difference does it make? So
it's
if
pretend.
you guys are interested in that, go to our athletes page, and Marty's contact information is on there. So is Kirk's. And other than that, we're going to try to do this again next week. We'll announce it on Facebook. If you guys have any questions or any certain topics you want to discuss, we're always glad to see some of that information coming over. So in the meantime, we're going to wrap it up. That was a great discussion. I appreciate it, Marty. And
Yes, sir.
we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.